Hey, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time. I was really excited to speak to you. We met before once in the shop in Dubai, and obviously doing all the research about you was really exciting, and seeing what you do and how you go into Leomo and all the technical details of everything. And I want to give a quick introduction. You're 39 years of age. You won Crocodile Trophy, which is one of the hardest mountain bike races in Australia in 2004 and 2005. You were the Tour Down Under mountain classification winner in 2014. You have an amazing record of 20 consecutive Grand Tours. I think the former record was only like 10 or 9 tours, and it was for 57 years that record stand. 25 Grand Tours in total, which I calculated is about 87,500 kilometers in the tours. It would take 3,500 per tour. You won the stage in Giro and in the Vuelta. You're known as the handyman of the peloton. I think you help people to fix stuff, and they knock at the door and say, "Is the office still open?" You're building your own lightweight shoes, which I thought is quite amazing. Super lightweight and super stiff. And I have a few questions later how you make them UCI legal. You have written software for Lotto-Soudal for the management of the team, because that was, I think, was your first career. And I found out you speak German. Guten Abend. Welcome to the show, but we do it in English. Yeah. Adam Hansen. I'm very excited. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have been in Germany, I think, with your first team in Freiburg, with Team Telekom, and you've been in the sports university in Freiburg, and I'm born in Freiburg. So what are the memories you have for Freiburg?
Actually, it was very nervous time for me, because what happened was I was riding for a team in Austria, and my manager actually set me up with a performance test in the Freiburg University, and there was 3 of us there, and they said they'll take the strongest 2 riders, whoever did the performance test. So I was there, and I actually knew this like 2 weeks before or 3 weeks before, so I really I structured my training just for an FTP test. And yeah, so for me, I was very nervous, because, you know, based on my result was, yeah, if I get a shot with the team or not.
Very good. I went there as well. And once I had done the test, they said I should open a bike shop instead of getting a pro cyclist. My few minutes of fame on the ergometer in Freiburg. I want to take you to the beginning. How was it all started with your cycling career, and who inspired you to become a cyclist?
Well, I did a lot of different sports when I was younger, and I did actually I started with triathlons, well, running, and then I went from running to triathlons, and my cycling was not so good. So what I wanted to do was, well, first my swim wasn't good, and then I really specialized in swimming, and I went to a Olympic trainer down the Gold Coast. So I went down there for 6 months and really specialized in swimming to improve my swim leg. Then my swim was super good and my run was good, but my cycling was very bad. So then I decided to focus more on cycling, and then I had the opportunity to go to Austria and do some cycling races. And I thought if I do 1 or 2 seasons, I could improve my bike leg. And yeah, I just really loved the European racing and road racing, and yeah, I sort of said goodbye to triathlons and just stuck with cycling.
Very good. And who was the rider in that era who motivated you? Who was the person in your head when you started your racing? You were kind of thinking about any rider, any particular one?
Yeah, my favorite rider at that time was Vinokurov. He was, for me, he was unpredictable. He could win anything. He never followed the rules in terms of, like, you know, racing tactics, so that he would do attacks in the final and win, you know, Champs-Élysées and the sprint final. He would win mountain stages. He would go for GC. He was exciting to watch.
Very nice. And I heard you saying once you were brought up doing everything at the 100% level. So who taught you? Was it your father, your family, your mother, brothers?
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely my father in that sense. He's always said, you know, do things once and do it right. It was always a mentality. And also, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. That also. So yeah, but definitely always, give it 100% and never look back.
Very good. If you go home after a long time, what's a food and a favorite dish your mom is preparing for you when you come home after a long time?
Wow. That's a good question. Well, my diet's totally changed the last 4 years. So I would have said, and I shouldn't say this now, but my favorite meal when I was going home would be lamb shanks. But now that I'm a vegan, I don't have that anymore. Normally when I go home, my mum enjoys when I cook. So more the other way around now.
I heard once as well somebody saying you're an original thinker, and I think what you do with all the racing and with all the equipment you produce for yourself, I thought it was quite a compliment. And you said as well that you really enjoy problem solving, and I used this actually for the last couple of meetings, but I said that's actually a nice view into having a problem and then really enjoying a problem solving. So you have done quite a lot of original thinking for the sport of cycling.
Yeah, I love problem solving, and this comes from I was a programmer before, and every task you get when you write software, there's so many different ways and methods you can get the end product, and you have to work out how you're going to do the formula or how you write the functions and which direction you want to go. And every problem that I have is or every problem that anyone has, you just got to work out the best solution. And this is the same with me making my shoes or with anything. It's I think also, like in today's world with the internet and the access of information, when people say they can't do something, for me it's like, well, with all that information in the palm of your hand, you can do anything. You just got to work it out, and there's no excuse for anyone.
Yes, and obviously you have earned yourself the name as the handyman of the peloton. What things you're getting asked for? I know I thought it was an interesting thing that you said you're cutting all the cables of your laptop chargers and you make a longer cable and a more softer cable onto the charger. Is this true?
Yeah, so when you travel lots, the hotel rooms the PowerPoints are not always where you want them and things like that. And laptop cable's always too short. So I buy my own cables and I cut them and I make them longer and more flexible so they fit in my bag easier. At the races, I bring a little like toolbox, which is like, those like, you call them like fishing boxes, the toolkits where you've got all the slots in there, and I carry like everything in there. So when there's a problem, if someone's got a problem with the laptop or phone or something, I'm always the first one to fix it. If someone needs their shoes repaired or like the boa system that needs to be relaced or something, I have all the tools. I have the tools to open up everything. I always carry like epoxy with me in case something needs to be glued back to normal, back to together. Usually I like to see, like, if you look at my backpack, I have everything in there, like everything. Like I just like to be prepared, and so when there's a problem, I'm always the person that they come to. Even sometimes mechanics ask me for stuff too, which is kind of funny.
Very good, very good. So they knock on your door and they said, Adam, is the office still open? And then they know they can get some help or not.
Well, they joke with this, but they always know the office is always open because I'm always the last to sleep. It's actually a little funny, like when the doctors at night, they always go to the rooms and see if the riders are healthy and things like that. And the doctors always come to our room last, or whoever I'm rooming with, because they know I'm always last to go to bed. And also, like, I'm always trying to absorb information from people, and I have a lot of respect for the doctors, and I've always got questions to ask them. And they know I always take the time because I'm always thinking of different ideas and methods like nutrition or training or how the body works. And so every time the doctor comes in my room, I like to interrogate him and just try and absorb as much information as possible. But yeah, the office is it's always open, always.
So you must have lots of friends in the peloton. So normally you don't get dropped, or they never really ride against you. Because if they have a problem with the laptop, they might get stuck.
For sure. You should always have friends in the peloton. You always need someone to help you.
Very good. We'll prepare the little clip, and I want to show this little clip about your career, just that we show people how a day in your office looks like. So Will, if you don't mind, if you start that clip. Wow. Thank you, Will. Yeah,
Very
amazing.
nice.
Fantastic. Take us back to 2013, first, or the seventh stage in the Giro d'Italia. That was the first clip we saw. How much do you remember from that day?
Oh, everything. I remember the day before was definitely a breakaway stage. And I remember shaving all my hair off, and I put on Twitter the day before, going in the break, who wants to come with me? And then, yeah, I was in the break, and as you saw in the clip, there was, as the breakaway got a bit thinner, there was, Sella was with me, and I was pretty determined to beat him. He's a pure climber, and that stage is around the Torino area, so it's it's very hilly. And I remember just him and I, and he, like one part of the clip, you see that I'm getting away from him on the climb because the roads were wet and we had trouble getting traction. So he could only stand up, and I could get the power out by sitting down. So I was really trying to put the pressure on him there, and I was super happy to beat a guy like that. And yeah, and with the bunch, they were going crazy trying to catch us, and it was hard because it was super slippery and super wet and dangerous. And yeah, I was able to hold it up right and come to the finish in one piece.
Fantastic. I think both of I looked at both of the stages, and I thought the situation, how you won, was super impressive, because obviously it was a solo victory. And it looked to me almost that the sprint teams were really chasing. It was not like that it was a big gap, and it was really down to a few minutes, and just an amazing victory. And in the second clip, I thought it was quite interesting to see as well how narrow your handlebar setup is. That was quite unique, I feel. And how do you remember the second? That was then 2014 in the Vuelta, stage 19. What do you remember from that day?
Yeah, well, I went through a period where we didn't have so many sprinters in our team at a lot of the Grand Tours, so I could always do attacks in the final, and I always had this opportunity I could do it. And this stage was really good because there was a big climb before, and a lot of the domestics were dropped, which really really helps in your favor. You do an attack in the final, because then there's less people to chase you down, because you have a lot of lead out guys really waiting because there's no help from the rest of the team. And there was, a climb, I think it was, maybe 4 or 5K before the finish. And I went on the climb, and I just kept hitting them. I think I did like 3 attacks in a row to try and get clear, and I got clear. And yeah, there was, I think, 3 sprinters, Michael Matthews, John Degenkoff, and there was a few others. And yeah, they didn't have so many workers. They had 1 each. A bit disorganized, but they really tried. And yeah, but I was getting 100%. And I think they waited like 4 seconds, and that was it. That was enough to make the gap. And okay, it was very short, the difference between first and second, but yeah, it was enough to get the win. And for me, this is my favorite win, because it was in the final. You see Valverde like just behind me when I did the attack, and guys were like thinking twice if it was too early or not. And it was a good group of riders. And yeah, for me, this is the nicest one.
No, fantastic win. Obviously, the record of 20 Grand Tours in a row. That's six and something years consecutive going for a Grand Tour, and going 3 Grand Tours. That has never been done, not even remotely close. How did you figure that out, that you can do that?
Well, I never believed I could. I'm a bit of an extremist, and I always wanted to do 3 Grand Tours in a year. And I did that, and I loved it. I really loved this type of racing, and just this format of your race program. So when I did it once, I asked if I could do it again. I did it again, and then after 2 years, someone said, "Oh, you should go for the record." And I had no idea there was a record, and I laughed it off a little. I thought, it's impossible, because okay, first, it's super hard to do so many Grand Tours. Second, we have crashes like you cannot imagine. Like, there's always riders crashing out. So you've got to be really lucky in that sense. Then your health, you've got to be healthy, not get sick, because so many riders get sick and go home. And when you're doing so many Grand Tours, it's a lot of stress on the immune system and that. So just with all this in my head, I was like, I don't think it's possible. And for me, it was like, I'll just keep going because I enjoy it, and I'll see where it takes me. And I was really surprised I could get so far. I did have, I broke my sternum in one of the Giros, and I had to finish with a broken sternum. I dislocated my shoulder pretty badly in the tour. one of the years, and it was when we had the Paris-Roubaix stage, and that was hell. That was 2 days after dislocated my shoulder. But yeah, apart from those two incidents, yeah, it was very lucky with not crashing and also not getting sick. Okay, I take very good care of myself, that's true, and I'm very healthful. I try to be a very healthy person, so that definitely helped also.
And you've been really consistent as well with the teams. Obviously, you were in this legendary HTC Columbia and Team Telecom HTC Columbia team, and now Lotto-Soudal in different names and different configurations now for so many years. You like the consistency of all the teams? You just like the team, the Belgium team, or what keeps you there for so long?
If I say it in a positive way, I think I don't think it's so good when riders change teams all the time. So I think when you see a rider and he's always 1 year here, 2 years there, 1 year there, I think teams. Well, I'm not going to generalize too much, but you do see a pattern where some riders, they just keep going through teams. And when you see a rider at a team, generally for a long period of time, the team's happy with the rider, and also the rider's happy with the team. For me, like I said, the T-Mobile, HTC, Columbia, that was one team. Lotto and Soudal and Omega Pharma and all of that, that was also one team. So I've only been on 2 professional teams for my whole career. The HTC team was incredible to be on. It was really nice to be on this team. Mm-hmm. And the Belgian team, it's very, for me, it's very relaxed team. I have a lot of freedom there. And there's always a good group of guys. We had Andre Greipel and his gang, and I really enjoyed these years with Andre. That's probably one of the best years of my career. And now we've got, Caleb, super young, super talented, super good. And it's also a nice group of guys also. So there's no reason for me to change at the moment.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, when Andre was on the show a couple of weeks back, which was really interesting to speak to him. And now you have some super strong riders with Thomas de Gent, Caleb Ewan, John Degenkolb. So, and your job is at the end of the race, is it the last 2 kilometers, 5 kilometers? Where's normally your position in the lead out, or further towards the end, so last 1,000 meters?
Yeah, it depends what other riders are there. So normally my job is to just, so like, for example, in Tour Down Under this year and also UAE, I have the captain role on the sprint day. So I keep control of the guys pulling on the front and make sure they're not going too hard. Because that's one thing a lot of riders do as a mistake. When they're riding on the front, they're riding too hard. And if they ride too hard, you're saving the other team. So you should actually ride as easy as possible and burn out the other rider, because you want to burn out the other rider on the other team. So if you're racing, let's say, quick step for the sprint also, you want to use that rider as much as possible and save our rider. Because if you do all the work, you're saving him, and it's like 6 versus 7. So I make sure that, because there's always young guys working at the start of the race, just get them to just really use as little energy as possible, try and burn out the other team so we have an extra guy for the lead out. And then my job is to sort of start the train and just sort of don't take the lead, but always position them in good position to make sure we don't go too early. But when I go, that's when the team goes. And I got to look at the situation, see how many lead outs guys on the other teams, and just make sure we don't get boxed in. Sometimes I have to do a big move to come to the front and close the other teams in. And it's really, this can sometimes, and because I make the choice, it can be 5K from the start, and sometimes I can use other teams, because I try and use other teams. I just don't come out in the wind. And if I can use other teams, then sometimes my job, I can start at 2 kilometers or 1.5 kilometers, and it's really, based it on the race situation and how many riders from the other teams. And it's really, it's not so crystal clear. If that makes sense.
Very good. So I need a tip for Friday morning. We have our Friday morning group ride, about 100 kilometer. Our common friend Frenchie is sometimes there. So how should I use them? I should use them up and then read the situation a little bit better. Maybe I have to do this. Yeah. Or do you have any other tips I can use for Friday morning?
Yeah. Well, there's always some excited riders. They always want to show themselves, and especially like in our racing, and you see it on the Saturday rides also. There's always guys that want to show themselves, and And you should let them, you let them do their effort in the front and just use them as much as possible. And then, kick after that.
Very good. If you put the helmet on, you put your race helmet on, how much of your personality changes from the nice guy who fixes other people's laptops to racing and being full on focused and racing and don't let anyone past and protecting your sprinter? So how much your personality is changing?
That's a that's a good question. It's, how do I say this? I think my biggest problem is I got a lot of friends in the bunch, and like I got a lot of friends that I know and that, and I always let guys in a situation where I think it's not so important, where you really, let's say protect your sprinter and things like that. And I see some guys, they're a bit too, let's say, stubborn and strong, and they really want to hold their ground in a situation might be 80 kilometers before the finish. And what I've noticed is the more you let other guys in, the more they let you in. And you can actually use this to your advantage. So sometimes, if I see a situation where if he comes in, cuts me off right now, doesn't change my situation, I always let him in, because subconsciously he will let you in one day, and you can use this to your advantage. But there are times in a race, and it's super hard to do sometimes, because you can have your best friend right next to you and you have your whole team behind you, and you're like, nah, sorry, not today. This is really crucial moment. You cannot box my team in now. And that's when I do it friendly, and I always apologize afterwards. And it is a difficult thing to do, because I have good friends in other teams, but we at the end of the day, we all understand the situation. And I'll never take out a rider, but yeah, sometimes it is hard to do to your friends.
What's your favorite race of all the races? Is there one you want to win in particular?
My favorite race? I always like national championships in Australia, because it's always so unpredictable who would win. I've always wanted to win nationals, the road race, but I like actually Frankfurt is one. It's not the biggest race, but I really like Frankfurt race. Every year I enjoyed it. I like this type of racing where you have like the big circuits, and then you sort of have the finished circuits with the climb in it. And I'm not a super climber, but I'm not a bad climber. And for me, it's always, if I'm in good form, I really like these races, because I can play an important part in the final. And if it's a sprint, if I get over these type of climbs and my sprinter's there, I can be super useful for the sprinter. But I like these type of races. And Hamburg also, this is another race to really like.
Nice. What do you think is the next big thing? Because obviously you're thinking always a little bit different than others. What do you think is the next big thing in cycling we haven't seen yet, and we will get to notice a bit more in a few months or years?
You mean like in the races, or
racing or technical things? What do you see? What do you think is the next thing?
Well, if you're going to say technical, I know I'm a bit biased with this. I really believe in, as you said at the start with the Limo and the motion technology, analyzing. This is one thing I really believe in. So definitely, definitely with the Limo, with the motion sensors, how the body moves. This is getting really interesting, because first we had heart rate, which is what we based our training off, and you can see very clearly heart rate was the only tool we had. And then we had SRM came in with the power meter, which changed everything, because power is a real unit of measurement that the rider outputs. And now with the motion technology, we can actually, with Limo, we can actually see how the rider produces that power. And 400 watts is 400 watts, that's true. But a rider might be not efficient and create 400 watts doing a lot more work than another rider super efficient, producing the same wattage. And this is another energy saving tool that you can use to make you a much better rider in that sense. So that's definitely from the training point of view, something I really believe that'll come. It's a bit fresh now, and like I remember when the power meter, SRM power meter came out, a lot of people hated the power meter, because the heart rate was always, you do an effort, heart rate slowly goes up, and then when you sort of stop during the interval, the heart rate was plateaued, and when you finish, it slowly goes down. and riders could understand heart rate really easy. And when the power meter came out at the start, people couldn't understand it because the power would go straight up when you do an interval, and then you can have 1 second off, it goes to 0, and the number was always fluctuated and that. So power was, I remember when that first came out, it was hard to adopt for the riders. And now with the motion technology, it's another level, bit more difficult to understand. And I see some riders are struggling with this, but when you have a good understanding, it's it's crystal clear also, like the power is. So from a technical point of view, from a racing point of view, I think a lot's going to change now because of coronavirus. How we do things now and the type of races. So I think this is a bit hard to predict in the future.
You have seen as well now many years of cycling, and what would be a tip you give yourself when you look back to 2003 when you started racing? What tip would you give yourself from knowing what you know in 2020 going back to 2003?
Definitely training much better. Training, nutrition. I think definitely nutrition. What I've learned in the last few years with nutrition, this is the most underlooked thing, I think, in definitely in cycling and sports. Nutrition can play such a big factor on just the type of training you're doing. And just for an example, if you're doing a long ride burning fat in your fat zone,
yes,
just by having a sugar drink can change your whole energy system. Just by drinking the wrong type of drink can change your whole type of training. And you could be doing the same set, constant ride, same wattage and everything. But by having sugar will change the type of energy system you're using. And I think all training programs should have nutrition next to it. If you're doing a high intensity session or you're doing a recovery day or something like that. And I wish I knew more about nutrition when I was younger. I think I think it's a huge factor.
And what do you do if you have a long session, if you do like a basic ride and a not lower level intensity ride? What would you eat when you say, okay, you want to avoid carbohydrates in a way? So what is your nutrition coming from? You working mostly on fats, or what? How would you explain this to somebody who is new?
Well, the rave about ketones at the moment. So, and I like to give this example because a lot of people relate to the ketones and how they help. So the idea of ketones is it's a different form of energy source. And you won't win a bike race with ketones, but this is the theory. I'm not a believer in ketones, but this is the theory on it. The theory is you take ketones and your body uses this as energy and it spares your glycogen. The glycogen is what will win the bike race. This is the sugar in your blood and your liver and your muscles that really give the best energy system. And the problem is, in a long race, like Milan San Remo was a perfect example, and in a race like this, you burn all your glycogen throughout the race. And when you do the Poggio, super easy climb. But when you do it after 300 kilometers, it's super difficult. And if you don't have the glycogen stores, then you can be the best rider in the world, but if you have no glycogen, you're going to struggle on the climb. So when you're doing like a long ride, for example, you should really promote your fat burning. And the more you can promote your fat metabolism, then you're really sparing your glycogen. And it works the exact same way as the theory of ketones. So you want to improve your fat metabolism as best as possible so you can have your glycogen for the end of the race. So if you're doing like a long, slow, steady ride, it has to be in your fat zone. It really, you really have to stay within your fat, the maximum fat burning. If you go too hard, it actually kicks you out, and it can take 20 minutes before you start burning fat again. So if you're going through a traffic light, don't accelerate. If you're doing a small little climb, don't ride 30 kilometers on the flat and 30 kilometers on the mountain. Really go much easier and just keep the same wattage. And if you have like a sugar drink, it'll cause an insulin spike. As soon as you have an insulin spike, this hormone blocks you from accessing your body fat. And just by having a sip of, your typical isotonic drink, you're actually blocking your body from using fat as an energy source. And then you're really dependent on the sugar. And you have to keep taking the sugar, because if you don't have enough sugar, but you create an insulin spike, that's when you're really at your limit. And if you just have no sugar and your insulin is more plateaued, then you have access to your body fat, and you can actually do a long ride or a very constant, high wattage constant ride enough by getting fat. Your body is able to use that as an energy source. But by blocking it off, by having insulin spike, that's when you sort of get dizzy and you sort of bonk a little. So your nutrition can play a very big part. And when you're doing, I always think if you're doing a long ride, do a long ride. Don't do intervals in it. Don't go too hard. Don't go too easy. Do a really constant. If you do an interval day, make a pure interval. It doesn't have to be a long day. It can be 2 hours. If you do the quality work, it's fine. But do everything at 100%. And that way you can do your maximum interval days, your maximum strength days, and your maximum long days.
What do you eat then on a low intensity ride when you want to go into your fat resources? Do you eat anything or you just have water, or what would be a snack you have on the ride?
I'm not a good person to ask because you shouldn't do what I do. I'll have no breakfast. I'll do a fasted ride, depending on the intensity. So for example, 2 weeks ago, I did this trip where I rode 325 kilometers in one direction. I spent the night there. I did a ride with a few people, and then I rode back. The first 6 hours, I ate nothing. And so I had no breakfast, 6 hours, nothing. And I just slowly fed. So I had some, I baked some sweet potatoes, and I took just 3 sweet potatoes. It's a real starchy carbohydrate. So it's not like sugar where, create a massive insulin spike. It's a slow release, so your glycogen levels are more plateaued, and when you do it like this, it's easier to take from fat also. So you're giving enough for your body to survive, and from a glycogen point of view, and you can also access your body fat. So it's more about slowly feeding and not having your fast sugars, but more starchy. So I go for the more starchy foods on the long days. If it's a smaller long ride, so let's say 5 hours, then I'll happily do it with nothing, no food at all. And but I've been doing this for years, and I've also built up to it. So if I recommend someone to do it, I would say don't have breakfast, start your ride, and then after 20 minutes have like a quarter of a bar. Every 20 minutes have a quarter of a bar, and then you can progress that to half an hour nothing, and then 20 minutes, and then 1 hour, and every 20 minutes, and an hour and a half, and you'll see that you'll riders pick it up super fast. It's people first think it's impossible, but you can actually pick it up really quickly.
Mm-hmm. And you feel like after the ride, you always take a protein, kind of almost a bit of a protein shot and shock for the body, that you give him enough protein, and I think you limit your protein intake for certain occasions. Is this correct?
So yeah, it's interesting. Like with the protein, what you should do is, when we do this after racing, so the first thing you do is have a fast sugar. So in the past, we used to have a Sprite or a Fanta or something like this. That's the first thing you do, because you cannot do a muscle recovery if your glycogen stores are depleted. So first you've got to fill up your glycogen stores. And so now we have a special drink from Sunus, which is a bit more healthier than a Sprite or a Fanta, but it does the exact same thing. And when you have this fast sugar, you have a massive insulin spike. And when you have a massive insulin spike, that's when you're at the most anabolic state. So when you go to that anabolic state, that's when you have your protein just after that. So your protein can be used to get maximum muscle recovery. If you just take protein without the fast sugars before, you won't have that anabolic state with the insulin spike, and you actually won't recover as good if you don't have that sugar. So you have to have the sugar is actually really important to have the maximum muscle recovery with the protein, obviously.
Very good. That's very good. Thank you so much. I think that's very helpful as well for our listeners who are always looking for some extra tips. Good. I have a few questions again about the peloton and so on. Who was your best roommate in these years? And who is the funniest guy in the peloton?
I have to say my best roommate is John Dagenkoff.
Okay.
Now, I've only roomed with him at training camp this last December. So I've never roomed with him at a race, but we had probably the best, we were there 2 weeks. Seriously, he was one of the best roommates I ever had. He was super good. And I look forward to do a race with him this year. I hope I can do a race with him this year because we had a lot of fun. I really like John. The funniest guy, I would have to say, he doesn't race anymore, but I have to say this guy because he is leagues above everyone else, is Vicente Arenas. He's a Spanish rider. He was with us in HTC and also came with us to Lotto. And he is just the funniest guy you will ever meet. And he just always brought Just thinking about him, I laugh. He always made the mood good, no matter what situation. He really held the team together the worst days. It was really good to have him on the team.
Very nice. Is there any rider you look up to at the moment in the peloton, or you think, okay, he's just above everybody else right now?
You know, like I have more respect for riders like, you know, Victor Campenaerts.
Yes.
And Rowan Dennis, these two riders especially. Probably mostly more Victor, not because, you know, when you ask the question if someone's really above someone else, I think there's always going to be someone talented, super good. But I more look up to riders, especially Victor, in the way he does everything for cycling. Like this is mind blowing what he does. He will, you know, I help him set up with his altitude system that he had, and he will have like 4 generators, and we do the pipes in a special way so we can get the altitude to maximum height. And he's like, he does altitude perfect, he does his diet perfect, he does his core training perfect, he does his bike position perfect. He was, when he was doing the 1 hour record, he was like, okay, how can we put the chain ring from the right hand side to the left hand side on the bike, because it'll do smaller circles and it'll be more aerodynamic. This is just the way he's thinking. I was like, well, okay, you can swap the cranks around because the press fit bottom bracket is easy to do, and okay, the disc wheel you can, you know, it's fixed, so you can swap it around, but you probably have to put 2 screws in the sprocket because the other way tightens the cog, and when it's this way it loosens the cog just to be safe. And I was like, in theory it should work. And then Camp Agnolo was like, no, it's got to be like this. But he does everything, like really, you know, like during every stage. I remember with him in the Giro last year, he was always practicing his tuck every single day, like just for like 10 to 15 minutes doing core training. And the dedication he was doing was just mind-blowing. And I don't want to say he's not a good athlete, but a lot of it comes from his preparation, his training, and just how he looks into all the details. And to me, when someone does this is really impressive.
I read something, or I saw something, you helped him as well with Leomo, with the setup, and you saw he was very smooth in his pedaling style. So maybe just to explain what Leomo is, and maybe you can do this as well for the listeners so they understand what are we talking about when we speak about Leomo. We have actually one system. I got maybe 2 years ago, I bought one of the first systems, and I'm all excited about these products as well.
Yeah, it's a very Leomo's very, very interesting system. So Leomo, you know, you put sensors on your feet, your thighs, and your sacrum, so your pelvic, and you can put them anywhere you want on your body, and you can measure the body movement. So with Victor, when he changed from Lotto to NTT, so BNC bikes, we captured his position. So we put the sensors on him on his old bike, and we captured how much his legs move up and down and how much he rotates in the pelvic and his foot angle ranges, everything. And we captured that and we replicated that on his new bike. And we want it exactly the same because, as you know, saddles, they have a different foam on the top, and you can measure the height to be the same height, but when the rider sits on it and the weight, it can be different height when he's on the bike. And also, I gave some good examples, like with my bike, when I sit on the seat, because of the type of seat post I have, it changes 2.5 degrees the seat when I'm sitting on it. So, and if I have a different seat post and different seat, the seat won't flex. But what's important is not the bike, what you are, what your pelvic angle is, and how much your legs move up and down. So we capture the rider and make sure the rider is moving the exact same on both bikes. That's what we did with Victor. And this is the beauty of the Leomo system, because you're actually measuring the rider and not the bike. And you can really capture and replicate the same position on 2 different bikes. And I believe you also have like the Giro system in your shop.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love the system also because this measures the pressure mapping of how the pelvic moves on the saddle. And this is important because, you know, with geobiomizers, the theory is more contact points and pressure points. And what they want to do is have you as stable as possible on the saddle and spread out the pressure. And what we found is, because I've been trained with geobiomizers with bike fitting, what we found is with the Leomo, the theory is exactly the same. We measure how much the pelvic moves, And with the G-Biomize, you see it on the computer screen, the black line of where you go and all the pressure points. And with the Limo, it's the same. So you see the movement and the rocking and also the rotation, and you want the pelvic as stable as possible. So the power is transferred to the crank. You don't want a situation where you're pushing and your pelvic's going backwards. You want to, really solid, all the power's going forwards. And with Victor, we actually created a new MPI with Limo because of Victor, because we noticed that a sensor on his thigh, he has super smooth pedaling efficiency. And when I test amateur riders, they're terrible at this. And you really see the pros are better. And Victor is a guy he's your base, you reference everything to, because he's like accelerometer X on the thigh sensor is just perfectly smooth. When he's at the top of the stroke, the accelerometer just goes perfectly down. A lot of riders have a little hiccup. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit of a power loss, and he is just exceptional. And you can improve this a lot with bike fitting and different seat heights and seats and things like that, and strengthening your calf muscle, because there's also, when you do ankling, this also creates a little kink in the accelerometer and in the Z-axis. So this does help. That you can modify it a little, but it's just a lot of it's muscle training, muscle memory.
Did you find Leomo, or Leomo found you after they know how technical you are? How was this cooperation coming along?
Yeah, it was actually interesting. They actually approached me, and I think they at the start, the company struggled a lot because it's a very complicated device and it's a lot of information. It's a real lot of information. So they came to me, hoping that I'd understand it. And I tried it and I tested it and I understood it, and I love it. I think it's for me, it's like the Game Boy of cycling now. And you really see how you move on the bike, and you can see like I crashed last year in Pays Basque, and I just tore the whole side, lost skin on the whole one side of my body. And you see it on the Limo bars. You see, because it measures your left and right leg on your foot and your thighs and your pelvic angle. And when you see the graphs, you see all the ranges different. And I could see that I was stiff on the right, so I could feel it. The system shows you directly. And this is good for like coaches and that, when they want to know if the rider's ready to go back into training, or if the rider has some kind of injury or tight muscle, you can see it. It's just opened up a whole category of what you can see and test, and it's it's a pretty cool device. I like it a lot.
Very good. You see, when I saw G-Biomize, and that's maybe like 10 years ago when we started, and I saw it at Eurobike, and I always struggled to obviously see what happening between the body of the rider and the saddle. And the same, we got it for the foot interface, so we could look inside the shoes and we could see what happens there. How is the power implementation into the ride, and what happens inside the foot, and maybe what insoles you used. And it was really like kind of a just a relief. I could say, okay, now I understand what happens. Yeah, and we learned so much about, as you said, pelvic rotation and the motion of pelvic movement and so on. So we could see, suddenly we understand why people have problems on saddles and why they kind of go create a lot of power but don't move. So it was really, really interesting. And the same I feel with Leomo, obviously, because you can use it as well when you're riding, and you can use it outside, which was before was difficult with all the other tools. Yeah, so I'm quite excited about it as well.
Yeah, it's exactly how you said. Like, I feel like when I'm fitting riders, a lot of riders have problems, but they don't know why. Yes. And G-Biomize, you can see it directly, and it's nice. It's nice to show the rider the data. And the biggest benefit with Limo is you can take it out in the races. And I use it in the races a lot, and you can see the numbers. You can see when you fatigue. Where I'm doing a webinar next week where I can really pinpoint of when you're doing like high torque training, what is too much. Because at the moment we base torque training on FTP. And FTP is just a measurement of fitness. It's got nothing to do with muscular strength or something like that. Where we're using the Limo now to see, okay, when you're doing high torque work, so low cadence, we see you capture your body. And if your body is, if you start riding like this to do, 40 cadence, then it's too hard for you. And we can really pinpoint exactly, okay, this is what you should be doing. This is good for the coach, where they say, okay, that was too hard for the rider, because you should not be like riding like this or moving too much. And it's just a different way of training, and it's more, I think, more accurate.
Do you use an aeropod, like these little pipes to measure wind resistance and the CVA while you're riding? Have you tried this?
No, I've seen it. I've seen one of them, and I've always wanted to get my hands on it, but I haven't really tried it yet. I'd like to have a look into it more, but it's for me, it's I don't know if it's like, I'm always skeptical of something like this, but then I think if they release it, it's got to have something behind it, because they actually release it as a product.
Yes. No, we have this as well. So I'm as well kind of interested in all these things. So we got the BioRacer AeroFit. We got these Aero pods, which I think work really. It's really interesting information. Obviously, you can see a live CDA when you're riding, because obviously it measures the wind speed, it measures the power, it measures the gradient of the road you're riding on, and you have to obviously calibrate the system. But that obviously in combination with Leomo would give you as well an aerodynamic feedback. So I think that would be super cool. And we got recently, we ordered like a STT 3D cameras. So we have 4 cameras where we can measure everything. So I think when you come next time to Dubai, we have to spend a couple of hours in the shop and play around with some of the new toys we have.
Sounds good.
Yes. Okay. Have you heard about AMP lotion? Have you heard about this lotion to reduce lactic acid buildup?
No.
Okay, maybe something new we learned now. You heard it here first. AMP
lotion.
AMP lotion. Yeah. I will send it to you. Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah. I want to speak about your shoes, because I think that's super exciting. And today we were speaking in the office, and I think the shoes weigh about 70 grams, and we figured out, and Robert said that an empty 500 milliliter water bottle, one of the lighter ones, weighs 70 grams. So if you don't believe how light these shoes are, take an empty water bottle and you can see. This is unbelievably light. Yeah. Tell us how this foot fetish and shoe fetish.
Yeah, it's like a Mars bar. It's yeah, well, I have 2 seconds. I actually had a problem with my foot, and that's why I started it, because of a bone. You see it probably more with this bone here sticking out.
Okay, yes.
And back in the olden days, there used to be a ratchet system here.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember. Yes. And that was always on my bones. I always wanted to make my own shoe, and I always wanted to make it lighter as possible, obviously. And then, yeah, once you can make it super light, like this one here is a prototype I made years ago, and this one's I think it's 62 grams or something, but there's no carbon on the top. It's full Kevlar, and it's just just a prototype. But yeah, for me, I cheat a little, because the Bond shoe is like a bathtub design.
Yes.
And when you have a bathtub design, it's like, to give an example, a normal shoe has a flat sole, and a flat sole has got no stiffness at all. And a Bond shoe is bathtub, and you see directly, I can put weight there and it holds it. Mm-hmm. Because of the walls, that creates a stiffness. Yes. And with my shoe, I cheat a lot, because my shoe's like that, and that creates a lot more stiffness. And when I have something like that, I can use less material. That's how I can get it so light. So because I have that extra, because you can see the soles, they really come all the way to this. You see this faint line there? And that's where I get it. And this is my new prototype shoe I'm doing at the moment, where now it's all one piece. So it's full slipstream. And the back comes on through the back, and this is a locking mechanism, and you don't even see any seams. So it's really, and with this, I can, because it's like a tube, like a bike frame, I can use less material and get it even lighter and far more stiffer. And you have the actual sides of the sole come all the way over here. So my new shoes, and I hope to finish this one before the Giro this year. And so it's going to be a full seamless shoe. And at the same time, I'm testing different cleat positions. So I have the different mounts for the cleat positions, because that's something else I want to test. In the end, I won't have the mechanism at the back. I'm going to have it just directly underneath the cleat here. But I want it really like there's no seams at all on all corners. But yeah, it's once again, when we're talking about problem solving and that, for me, it's like, this is the product that I wanted to build, and it's just the methods, because when you do carbon fiber work, there's so many ways to doing it. It's like, you can do wet layup, you can use pre-peg carbon, you can do it in onion form, different like different stages and that. And it's just like just trying to work out the best method and the best material to use. And yeah, to try, like, I love it. I love this type of work and problem solvings. And but always a problem I have is like I finish something like this, and then as soon as I start, I'm like, this is a better method. And then I try and create new molds again. And yeah, I've always got different ways, and I've got like 3 other different ideas I want to do, but I got to finish this one first before I start the next one.
So you need another COVID lockdown in order to have enough time.
Yes, I do.
Giro. Otherwise, the shoes wouldn't been ready. But you have to. Isn't it the UCI role that you have to make it commercially available in order to use it? So you're selling the shoes?
Well, yeah, I advertise them, and I have a few people that do. So I'm actually making shoes for 2 people at the moment, and I can't say the names yet. So I try and avoid it as much as possible, because it's not an easy thing to do, because it's really your foot. It's really like, it's hard to see but you see all the bones of your foot sticking out. It's really, it's the arches of your foot. It's really a sock of your foot. And it's not easy to do. It's really not easy to do. Like, you can see the bone lumps and everything. For me, it's easy because, I'm at my workshop. I can make adjustments straight away. To do it someone else, it's a lot harder than people think. So I prefer not to, but when people ask and put pressure on me, okay, I have to do it because it's UCI rules. I try and put the price up super high, and I still get requests for it. But yeah, with the UCI rules, it's a bit hard to understand it properly, because they say bicycle equipment, and it's hard to see if shoes fit in equipment, because shoes could be clothing. And I know you cannot buy some of our time trial suits. This is not available to the public. So I just have it there just to be safe. And if someone really wants it, okay, then I would do it.
Very cool. Very good. We work with Lake, and I think they really go as well a long way with different shoe molds and everything, and trying to accommodate. And really, I feel they understand feet quite well. Not obviously as custom made as yours, but I think this is nice. And we're working with different insole manufacturers, so we feel as well shoes is something as well for many people really undervalued and not paying enough attention for it. But we feel if the base is not right, then it doesn't really work. And we learned a lot in the last years as well, together with our friends from Mice and Lake, about feet and cycling and the shoes itself.
I've heard Lakes are very good, and they're very in the peloton. There's a lot of guys saying they really like the Lakes and how they really adapt to the rider a lot.
Very cool. Who do you feel is your biggest supporter from the teams or from your family? Who supports you with all these things?
Well, my biggest supporter would be my mum, that's for sure. But if you're talking about me doing all these little things, I think definitely the riders in the team, they full support. They love it. They love it when I come to the race and I have something new and different idea. And I know Victor Campanarts, he's always on me with like, what are you working on now, and what should I be doing, and how do I do this in altitude training, and how do I build a sauna? And he's doing like heat training also. And so it's nice when you have guys like this that really want to know more and really try and absorb information from you. A lot of young guys also in the teams, they also like, they pick my brain quite a lot. And it's good because I think I wish I listened more when I was younger. Definitely, I think I have this theory that anyone that's older than you knows more. That's just what I think. And even in their wrongness, they know more. And whenever I'm with an older person, I just try and just talk with them as much as possible and just try and get as much information out of them as possible, because I just think anyone that's older than you just experience more in life, and they just, even in their wrongness, even if they're wrong in what they're thinking, they have a reason where they got to that path, if you understand me. And it's right in that sense, and that's why they think like that. And it's but yeah, so I really admire older people and or people that just experience lots. It doesn't have to be older, but I think you can always learn something from anyone. Very
good. If you had a time machine, would you go forward in time, or would you go backwards and fix a few things?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I could definitely go back and fix a lot of things. That's for sure. All the mistakes I've made in life. So yeah, I definitely could. I'd love to go back and speak to the 22-year-old of myself. I would, yeah. I remember my father used to say, if I knew what I know now at your age, my life would be so different. You know, I think a lot of people have heard this. Their parents say that, and they're like, "Man, you know, you can't learn so much." But when I think of it now, it's like, it's so true. It is so true. You know, thinking how naive I was at the age of 22, it's crazy.
I have my 22-year-old daughter sitting next to me, so I tell her later.
100% it's true. 100% it's true.
Good. Do you have a strange habit? Anything people would say about you, all your teammates? What would they say? What's the strange habit of Adam Hansen?
I don't know.
I will ask Andre maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you might know.
And do you have a party trick or any special skill when you sit on a dinner table? Anything you could show off when you? What would you do?
I'm an introvert. I'm really an introvert. I try and stay low and just listen.
Very good. Yeah. If you had you could change your life with a famous person or any person in the world for one day. You could live their life. Is there one person you would love to change that?
That's a good question. I don't know. Can it be a non-real character?
Anything. A non-real, whatever. Yes.
Tony Stark. I'd love to just be in his workshop for a day. That'd be cool.
Okay, very cool. Working on the computer, very cool. We have gone all through COVID-19, and obviously we learned a few things. What will you take away from COVID-19? What do you want to keep? What you have learned in these last couple of months?
Sad to say, but I really enjoyed the lockdown. I think the world is too fast today, and I think in some sense we're not living life. We're sort of just moving too fast and not realizing, you know, the now time. And especially with coronavirus, it was nice how the world just stopped and we could just really focus on now. And it was nice just to catch up on life. And I just noticed life was just going way too fast. So I think this is, for me, I really enjoyed lockdown. It was probably, it's sad to say, it's probably the best 2 months of my life. I just felt real free, you know what I mean? You had no deadlines, you could just do what you want when you want to, you could catch up on life. So I think this is one thing I took away from it. Another thing I took away from it is, I think some people, I don't want to say too many people, some people are a bit too spoiled in life. And I notice how, you know, like they were so like lockdown is horrible and how can they force us to do this? And they were comparing the situation to, like, you know, the World War II and things like this. And I was just like, whoa, like we're stuck in our homes. That's true. We could go to the shop. But back in those days, you step out of your home, you get shot. It's different. It's a totally different situation. You know, it's uncomparable. And I just felt like, I don't know, some people, you know, they just, you know, it's during lockdown, you're saving the world by staying at home. You're helping others, you know, if you understand me. And you're helping yourself, your family, and really others. You're helping the world. And it was like, it wasn't even that long. It was like 6 weeks or something in some places. And to see how some people really reacted so negatively towards it, and that was just like, it's 6 weeks of your life to save thousands of people's lives, you know. It's such a small task. And you know, some people really benefit from it, like spending time, like a lot of the families with children, they could spend time with the kids and just have that real, you know, family moments. This is nice. Yeah, so I saw this side of it, and yeah, I think it's I think we needed this. I think the world needed this push to the human race. Like, I think you're pushing the world too much.
Very good. Who do you follow on Instagram? Is there anyone out there who inspires you and you follow them and you feel inspired by them?
You know, I'm on these. I don't like social media platforms. I'm not very good at them. I know I should be more active, and if you do follow me, you see that I go through stages where I do quite a lot because I should, and then I sort of go off it because I always, you know, like I always say to people that there's two type of people on Instagram. There's one people that are creating their life, and there's one people that are following someone else's life. And I think it's good to have someone where you're motivated from, and you're like, oh, I want to do that, and you get ideas, and you can learn something from it. But I feel too many people are just living someone else's life, and I know for me, I don't want to be that person who I just follow someone. I want to be that person that lives that life, and I should post more on Instagram, because I think a lot of things I do would interest people.
Yes.
But in that sense, I don't actually spend a lot of time following people. I know I follow people, but I'm not on Twitter or Instagram. I have no Facebook. I'm just trying to live that life, if that makes sense. And I try and share a bit of my life a bit, but I don't do it as much as I should, or as people would like. But it's just very time consuming. And for me, I know if I work on my shoes, it's like I can spend 1 or 2 hours a day, but if I was to post information about it, it would take me an extra 1 or 2 hours also to do the videoing, set up the cameras, and it's a lot of work. And I'd rather, spend that time in a different project, for example.
Very cool.
So,
during the lockdown, did you watch a movie you really enjoyed, or did you watch a series? Anything stood out for you?
Well, I watched The Last Dance. I have to say that.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Is this Michael Jordan?
Yeah, and I loved it, because I was playing basketball throughout high school. I've always been a huge Michael Jordan fan, and Shaquille O'Neal. That was actually when The Last Dance was on. That's when I was really watching basketball. Back in those days in Australia, we had to wait until I think it was 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. We would get 1 hour of television of the NBA, and I was every Saturday morning I was there watching it. And I could see over the years, everyone forgot Michael Jordan. And it was more like, LeBron and Brian Corbin and that. And I was like, yeah, but Jordan's so much better. And when they showed The Last Dance, it was like, yeah, it was really, I feel like a kid watching TV again. And I actually have a basketball card collection. And I didn't realize how many Jordan cards I had. I think I have like 200 or 300 different Jordan cards. And Shaquille O'Neal's, and I was going through them again, and it was super nice to watch.
Very good. And now you're 39 years young. How many more Grand Tours you're going to add to the 25 collection? Is it you make another 3 of them this year? No, but that's very challenging, isn't it? Now they're so close together. So how many more years you think you're going to have in the pro peloton?
Oh, I don't know. I think I probably got at least 3 more years I could do. But I'm just taking year by year. I've got other ambitions also, so it's a bit hard to sort of balance it. I'd like to give Ironmans a crack, and I know I love cycling. I really love cycling, and I love cycling a lot. But I've always wanted to do Ironmans, and I just feel every year I do another year in cycling, I take a year off being competitive in Ironmans, and I really like to try and race pro in Ironmans. And for me, I am running out of years. I'm aware of this. And the thing is, I love cycling, enjoy another year of cycling, and, lose the best years of my life in Ironmans so I don't really know which direction I go. I just see how things go. And with the coronavirus, I think maybe now is a good time to do the change. Only because I think, because of the situation now, one-day races are more likely to happen than stage races. And I think it's very typical, to be, I'll be doing the Giro this year, and they're going to test us, I think, every 6 days or something. And I don't know clearly what they're going to do if there's a positive ride with COVID, if everyone goes home or the team goes home, or it's hard how they're going to do it. And if there's a second wave, this is also very difficult. Where I think one-day race is very easy. You go to the race, if you're negative, you compete, and then you go home. And if you catch it there, it's okay, because you go home, and then you can, get it out of your system, and you go to another one-day race. And how I see with triathlons and Ironmans, it's the same thing. I think, and also Ironmans, I heard, we had one in the Czech Republic 2 weeks ago where they didn't do a mass start. They did every 2 minutes for an athlete would go. And this is a lot easier to do. So I'm just going to see how it goes with this season, and I'll see. But I think I could, definitely race 3 more years, and maybe go for the record of the most amount of Grand Tours ever. I have to see.
Very good, fantastic. Now we're looking forward. I have a few short sentences, and I start them, and you, if you don't mind, if you finish them, please. I wish I had
More time.
more time. It's too early to.
Stop cycling.
A perfect day is.
When I've had a good training session.
Okay, nice. The greatest cyclist of all time.
Ooh, greatest cyclist of all time. Oh. Mark Cavendish, Peter Sagan, and one GC rider. Chris. Well, no, I'm going to say Bradley Wiggins for everything. He's done the hour. He's done the Tour de France. He's done the track. He's got a lot of Olympic medals. It's probably Bradley Wiggins.
Very good. The biggest upcoming talent in cycling?
Biggest upcoming in cycling. Well, it's so hard now. There's so many. There's so many of them. Yeah, I don't know. Next.
Okay. If you write a book about your career, what is going to be the title?
Things you didn't know.
Things, sorry, I didn't get it.
Things you did not know.
Things you do not know.
About me.
About Adam Hansen. You have a favorite quote?
Favorite quote?
Yes.
The world keeps spinning.
Good. Very good.
And that just means no matter what happens, the world always keeps spinning. If bad things happen to you, just be positive and move on, because the world doesn't stop. The world will always keep going.
And if you go to karaoke, which song would you sing?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Okay, I'm not sure if you're not going to win a prize with that. Okay, but
That's okay.
Very good. If you had one piece of advice you could give to the viewers about cycling, about anything, what would it be?
Well, I think maybe don't be so concerned what other people think.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you're more free, and then you'll be more experimental, and you'll be more believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Good, I like that. Yes. Adam, I want to be respectful of your time. I think you just came from a training, right? You just jumped into the shower and joined us here. It was really exciting for me because I had a lot of questions and you answered quite a few of them, but you saw my list before, it was quite long. And I hope we're going to see us in Dubai, and maybe we can go out for dinner and we can talk, or we can play with all the toys and all the measurement equipment we have in the shop. I would really enjoyed it. I know you sometimes stay for a couple of weeks in the UE, so it would be great to see you, and we're looking forward to see you racing again. I wish you all the best, and best regards to John Degenkolb and all the team, and we're really excited to see you guys back racing, and we wish you all the best, and we hope you're adding many more Grand Tours to the 25 you're already done, and yeah, you're a special person in the peloton, so well done for keeping us excited with your shoes and everything you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed it, and for sure we're going to go out to dinner next time in UAE. So I hope maybe in well, it's going to be busy during the season, and you know, when the borders open up and everything from EU, maybe in November.
Yeah, fantastic.
Be good.
Just let me know when you're coming. Very good. It would be great. Yeah, let me know. Next week we have, Gunde Court. I'm sure you know.
Yes.
He is next week on the show, and I'm really looking forward to see him. He's a funny guy. Looking forward to all the stories he has to tell. So next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Dubai time, we have on the show. So as well, a very established rider in the peloton, and I think very respected, a really good guy. So I'm looking forward to this. Yeah,
he is. He's a good guy. He'll be more. He's a funny guy. He's good. He's good quality.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Adam. Yeah, I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank
you, everyone, for watching. Thank you. Let myself. Just a moment. I have to let myself